I'm going to start the screen share and then we'll make the presentation full screen. If at any time you're not able to hear me or you think that the screen doesn't look right or any technical issues, just drop me a comment into the chat. I will be definitely keeping an eye on that so we can get the most out of the session today. But let's go ahead and get started. So I'm doing a 3-part series for webinars, and today is actually the third and final one in the series. And if you haven't been able to check out the previous ones, they are on our YouTube channel. I can email you all a link to that if it would be helpful. But the theme of this series is how Priority Matrix will support your organization through growth. And specifically, one of the biggest things that organizations can definitely benefit from is having a streamlined system to do processes and procedures. And that's absolutely something that Priority Matrix will help out with. Yesterday, I touched on a similar topic, which was, actually, it was on Monday. I was talking about onboarding, and we looked a lot about using templates. And that's absolutely something that comes into play in terms of standardized, streamlined processes and procedures. So we'll definitely look at using templates again today and a couple other things as well. So I put together just a couple intro slides here to set the stage, and then we'll transition into the live demo for today. But, working with so many customers on a day-to-day basis and kind of hearing about the struggles they go through without a system like Priority Matrix, the challenges are, actually pretty similar across all organizations, which would be the struggle of employees approaching similar situations with different criterias. And this should be a second bullet point, but this leads to uncertainty across processes. So a couple examples of that would be, for example, onboarding. It's kind of the perfect thing to talk about when we look at recurring processes. And, if all departments and, different roles are doing their onboarding differently, not to say it has to have the same information in it and the same materials, because it's definitely going to be different per department and per role. But, across those departments, there does need to be some type of streamlined process for onboarding, so you can easily track that information and modify it as needed. And, without a system like that, it can be definitely challenging to keep those priorities and processes aligned. Another example is, let's look at sales, for example. If you have a couple projects in place that help you track the processes and procedures for qualifying leads and moving them through your sales process, it's a lot easier to keep a kind of standardized approach across the department. And again, without a system like Priority Matrix to help you keep track of all that, it definitely poses a couple challenges. We also see organizations spending a lot of manual time on recurring processes. And with Priority Matrix, it's really easy to either set up templates that you can share with your colleagues, or you can set up recurring deadlines and recurring reminders and things like that to kind of take out the manual work of having to check everything, or even send those quick little reminders and follow-ups to your colleagues. So again, just to kind of recap with Priority Matrix, it just makes it super easy to streamline all of this stuff. And you can collaborate seamlessly and very easily across departments and across teams. And you can essentially create dozens of templates and dozens of recurring reminders and deadlines to, just make everything as easy as possible for you. So if you haven't already, you're going to want to install Priority Matrix on at least one of these platforms, if not more. So you can download Priority Matrix for Mac, Windows, and mobile. We have an application for all of those. We also have a web-based application that you can find at prioritymatrix.com. And for today's demo, we'll be looking at the Microsoft Teams integration specifically. For probably about 90% of our users, I would say they're either web-based or they're using the Teams integration. Reason being is because, of course, Office is just such a big ecosystem at this point. Majority of organizations use it. And if you're not in there, then the web application has the exact same interface, so you can get all the cool benefits from there as well. So definitely check out both of those. Today we'll be looking at the Teams integration. And for those of you that are brand new here, I definitely see a couple familiar names and faces here. But if you haven't been able to attend the Introduction to Priority Matrix webinar, I definitely suggest doing that. You can watch it live next week, or we also have copies of it on our YouTube channel. And the other webinar that I always suggest is the Best Practices with Office 365 webinar. It walks you through all the helpful ways you can use Priority Matrix with Microsoft Teams and within Outlook. So all great stuff there, all definitely webinars that I suggest, especially for those of you that are more of kind of new to the system. It's a really good intro to kind of get the lay of the land. So similar to the session yesterday, this one will probably just be about 30 minutes in total, including all of your questions, because the great thing about hosting so many different webinars is that we can really break it down just to make it super specific for a couple features. Save you guys time, not going to keep you on the hook here for a full hour, which, I think can actually be kind of refreshing compared to other webinars that we do. So again, the purpose of today's live session is to basically show you how you can use templates and recurring settings to kind of help you keep everything streamlined and standardized across different departments. So here in the middle of my screen, this is my priority matrix here, and it is integrated right into Teams. So if you haven't done this already, you're just going to go to Apps in your bottom left corner, type in Priority Matrix, and then you'll be able to get us installed there. Once you get us installed, pin us into your toolbar, and then whenever you access anywhere else in Teams, it'll stay there and be really easy for you to utilize. And then what I have selected here is My Projects. And the My Projects screen is where I kind of like to say, it's going to be your home base. It's going to be where you're collaborating with your teammates. So in terms of kind of standard practices with Priority Matrix, we see organizations setting up projects like I have here to represent groups of priorities that they're working on together, whether it's emails, leads, marketing, engineering, IT. We have all different verticals that use this. And the nice thing is projects are flexible. They just represent, essentially what you're working on with your team. But to kind of drill down and focus on the topic for today's webinar, we're going to look at first and foremost how you can access pre-created templates and how you can build your own. So again, these are all just miscellaneous projects that I've created for examples. And for all of you that are looking to set up a template, what you're going to do is you're going to hit Add Project. And a couple of things we'll look at here. So here are my templates. These are ones that I've already created and saved for myself. And you guys will have this little bank here eventually once you build yours. To help you get started, we do have public templates that are really helpful to kind of, build out these templates for you for certain processes if you don't want to set up your own. Starting from scratch today, I'll click on My Project, and then I'll just call this template example for webinar. And as I set this up, I want you all to kind of think to yourself, what templates would be helpful at our organization to set up through the system and kind of visualize what that will start to look like. So what I want to explain about the templates are a couple of really cool things right off the bat. I can add people to this template. I'll add one user here. And then what happens is when I re-access this template in the future, it automatically adds them to it. So you can think of the procedure of onboarding. If, in your sales department, every time you bring on a new employee, they're going to loop in a certain amount of managers, some peers to help them through it. Whoever it might be, you can drill down all the details here for this process. So you'll add members. You can even rename the quadrants to be, kind of in alignment with exactly how you want to lay out this process. Again, whether it's onboarding, sales, marketing, you can totally customize all that. And then you can go in here and you can start to set up the different tasks. So we'll just say task 1. And then we'll add one more here just for the example. So again, the idea of setting up these processes is you can build it out entirely. So I can even go in here and I can say this will be due in 3 weeks, and maybe task one is due in 1 week. Any details that we're formatting in here right now are definitely saved into the template. So when we re-access it, again, the idea is you don't have to set these things up again. You can even go as far as delegating these items. So as soon as this template is reused, it'll immediately delegate and notify these users in the system. So once you're ready to save this template to represent the process you're working on, you'll basically just go to the top right corner and you'll say save project as template. And from here, we'll just put notes and I'll say test template for webinar. And we can include all project members and mark the items as undone. So they're all new and ready to go. So here I hit create template. And this is definitely an expedited, kind of example here. But I'll delete this project just so we can kind of start from scratch so you can see exactly what happens and we don't get confused between the two. But now when I go to add project under my templates, we're going to see it if I can remember the name of it that we put on there. Should be in here somewhere. Here it is, test example for webinar. Click on it and we'll use the template. And I just want to show you guys that all the things we set up are still there. So automatically shares it, still has our deadlines in place, and still has the items delegated to my teammates. So any questions on how the templating system works, I'm happy to answer those for you. Your teammates can also create templates and then share them with you. So it's not like just one person has to be setting everything up. But, I've honestly seen people use templates for multiple departments in their organization. Again, literally anything that is recurring, you can set up a template for. All right, Marcus, I see your hand. Let me allow your microphone. Okay, and you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi there, it's again. Sorry.
Hey, Marcus.
I hope I have no silly question. When is who is when getting message? When you say
I'm sorry.
You add already colleagues or members, and then you use the template. When will who get what kind of message then?
Yeah, so what happens is it basically just works like any other notification. So when I reopened this template here, the system basically just reads it as me creating an item and delegating it to the owner in the template. So this person here, every time I open up the template, they'll be notified in their home view to basically let them know that this item has been assigned to them.
But
so again,
within priority metrics, not with a message not a chat message or an email or something, but within priority metrics in the way that there is an alert or an agenda point or something.
Right. So it'll come through priority matrix. You can also set it up to come through your chats and your channels, depending on the connectors that you have set up. And you can also have it emailed as well. So the notifications coming from your templates can be formatted exactly the same as any other priority matrix notifications. It just depends how you have those set up. Does that make sense?
Okay, when I don't have it in a channel, then as a standard, I use the new template and there are already persons in that template added, then they will not get a message as chat or something. The question is, let's say I try templates. Will my colleagues always get a message kind of? So why do I get a new message now? Why do I get another message?
Right.
Maybe I'm just trying to use new templates or something. For instance, just an example now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, the way that it works is when you involve somebody else in your organization into one of these projects, they will be getting notified. So, I mean, you can definitely test it out with them. You're going to need to involve other people to test it out to see how it works. But You know, if they're not using priority matrix at the time and they don't have notifications coming into their channels and whatnot, then it shouldn't really bombard them too much. You can always just comment and say like, hey, this is just for my testing purposes and stuff. But yeah, I mean, they will be getting notified when you're playing around with these templates.
Yeah, yeah. But mostly we are the chat message from priority metrics, right? That is the.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, that is bearable, or that's okay. Yeah. So okay. Good. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Marcus. Any other questions about how the templates work? I'm happy to answer that before I move on to kind of looking at recurring reminders and recurring deadlines. Perfect. Okay, so the other aspect of this webinar that I wanted to show you all to, again, help you kind of streamline processes and keep things standardized is maybe you're not necessarily going to use templates per se, which would be kind of the idea of creating a new project with a fresh start, right? Because every template you use allows you to kind of modify it and start fresh for that process in that project. But a different concept is to just set up one project and kind of let that run throughout the quarter or throughout the year. And then just set up recurring reminders, basically. So I'm trying to look for, well, we could use account renewals as an example. Well, that one looks a little too crazy. We'll just go back to the webinar example template. So let's say we're using this project and maybe it represents like recurring quarterly check-ins, for example. And again, this is a little bit different than using, oops, lots of typos here. Recurring, we'll just say weekly check-ins. This is different than a template because we're keeping this project running. We're not always opening a new project, but the idea would be, you know, maybe we need to do a check-in weekly with leadership roles. And then maybe we need to check in every Wednesday for account updates. You guys kind of get what I'm laying out here, which is the idea of you can have projects to kind of track these recurring things you need to get done. I see like sales teams and HR and accounting use this a lot for like checking in on invoices and checking in with external collaborators. So I'm kind of getting a little tongue tied here, but that's kind of the idea, is to, you know, set up recurring reminders and deadlines for things you constantly need to be checking in on. So now on the right-hand side, these are going to be all of my item details. So there's a couple ways you can set up a recurring due date. You can either go in here manually and we'll say, okay, this is going to be due on Friday and we want this to recur weekly. So now we have this recurring deadline. So if I mark this as completed, it went away, but in just a second, it's going to pop back up because I have a recurring deadline in there. So that's a really cool thing about this, is now it's not saying it's due tomorrow. It's showing you the recurring deadline for next Friday. So again, I can continue to check this off and I don't have to worry about forgetting about it the next week, because as we saw, it automatically repopulates with the new due date, which is really fantastic. Alternatively, we here at Affluence, we like to use recurring reminders, which again, you can go in and you can manually say, okay, remind me tomorrow, and we need to have this remind weekly. So now we're going to get a little feedback here in the chat. It's going to say we have the reminder set. And again, the next Friday, it will remind me again. So this is a little bit different because if I mark this as completed, it will disappear from my view. So reminders are for active items and deadlines are for those that you want to actually check off and then bring it back with kind of a fresh start for the item. I wanted to show you all a little shortcut. So instead of going through the interface here, I can use a command and I can say do every, well, we'll just say like do every Monday until finished. So it turns green and now it says I set my due date for Monday. And when I mark this as completed, it's still going to come back for me, as you saw, and be due the next Monday. So the same end goal, but you just don't have to click through this. You can just use language, and the artificial intelligence reads that and picks it up for you. Same goes for the reminders. So you could say, remind me every day until finished. Or alternatively, if I have more people on this item with me, and we kind of joke around about this here, that it's, kind of annoying, but, ultimately it's incredibly helpful if there's something that's really top of mind. Okay, so then once you get them added to the item, basically we'll see if that'll add for us as it's loading. What we can do is we can say remind everybody daily. And now it's not that I'm just getting the reminder, but everybody on this item is also getting reminded about this, which is really cool. And those reminders and those deadlines are, again, going to just come in right here through the alert section. So hopefully that makes sense for all of you. Again, if you're looking for more of just kind of a standard, introduction, then I definitely suggest the intro and the advanced intro that I'm hosting next week. Today's focus was on how we can use templates, recurring deadlines, and recurring reminders to kind of take out that manual work of feeling the heavy load of having to set everything up every time. Not only that, but with the templates, we want things to be streamlined across a department or an entire organization. So there's some type of process in place. And when you use these recurring templates, we are able to generate reports for you. So maybe you want to see, like, hey, how long is it taking people on average to go through the onboarding? Or on average, how long do we stick around with the same, sales process template or something like that? Makes it really easy to track this information and roll it up all into reports and datas that have, similar variables in them. So you can actually use it to adjust and improve. So pausing here, happy to answer any questions that you all might have. Would love to hear any comments, feedback, and most importantly, at the end of this, I want to make sure that all of your questions are answered so you can really confidently kind of move on and get started with the system. So I'll give you a few moments. I'll keep an eye there to see if anything comes through. Okay, Alfreda, give me one moment here. I'll take you off mute. Appreciate the question. Okay, let's go. You can go ahead and take yourself off mute. How are you? Hey, I can't hear you. Are you able to hear me okay? Alfreda, it looks like you are off mute. I can see your microphone is working, but I can't quite hear you. Maybe would you be able to drop your comment into the chat? Maybe I can answer it for you, because unfortunately I can't quite hear you right now. Looks like maybe your microphone's not connected. Thank you. I'm so sorry about that. I'm sad I can't hear you, but drop into the chat and I'll read it and I'll answer that for you. Thank you. All right, we'll wait to see that come through. Thanks for dropping it in there. And in the meantime, just a quick reminder that I'm hosting one more webinar tomorrow. Okay, perfect. Wondering about presenting this app to my team, a nonprofit. Oh, perfect. We work with so many different nonprofits. Yeah, awesome. Alfreda, thanks for asking that. So, it kind of depends on what you're looking to use this for. We have a lot of tutorials on YouTube that I would love to send to you that you can kind of watch and share those with your teammates. There's a couple short ones, such as, what makes Priority Matrix really unique and effective. That's a great one. It's only about 4 minutes long, and it's helpful because it kind of puts into perspective like why we're different than other tools. So you can kind of narrow down, the other systems you might be looking at. I'll send that to you. I'll gather up some special resources that we typically send to people when they're prepping for a presentation to the team. But definitely keep in mind, we work with nonprofits all the time. We do have special nonprofit pricing. And we also have like bulk seating options for you, again, just to kind of try to accommodate with your purchasing. All right, so how about for purchases org-wide? Yeah, so that's something that I can work with you on, or you can just sign up right through our pricing page. I'll send you a follow-up email and we can talk a little bit more about, the exact like seats, how you're kind of looking to roll that out. We can get all those questions answered, and I'm happy to work with you. But, super exciting. We love working with nonprofits, and they definitely get a lot out of the system. Perfect. Awesome, everybody. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.